Hey guys, my name is Sergey and today I want to tell you about something interesting I noticed when I was watching Emily in Paris. This video is not gonna be about the stereotypes. I know there were many videos about the stereotypes in Emily in Paris, but I want to tell you about something different. I want to tell you about how the series was translated to French, translated and dubbed. In case you didn't know, Emily in Paris is an American romantic comedy about an American girl, Emily, who moves to Paris. She got a job in a French marketing company, but she doesn't know much about the country, the city, she doesn't know much about French culture, and most importantly, she doesn't speak French. So the fact that Emily doesn't speak and understand French is a very important part of the character, is a very important point of the story. And a lot of jokes come from the fact that Emily doesn't speak and understand French. I have never been to France, but as far as I know, living and working in France when you don't speak the French language is very hard.
You work in an office full of French people?
Oui.
Wow, that must be interesting.
In the first episode, when Emily meets her new French colleagues, she begins her self-introduction by apologizing for speaking English.
First, let me apologize for speaking English. I did Rosetta Stone on the plane, but it hasn't kicked in yet.
And when she said that, one of her colleagues just stood up and walked off the room.
No, Patricia doesn't speak English.
But you know, when I was watching this scene in English, I thought for a second. So, okay, in English, she apologizes for not speaking French, for speaking English. But there should be the French translation, right? Probably the dubbed French version. So, what would Emily be saying in the French version of the show? I mean, it's the French dub for French-speaking audience. Everyone is speaking French there. No one is speaking English. Emily is also speaking French. So, would she be saying something like, I'm sorry for speaking English, but she would be saying it in French? It would be a little strange, right? So I was wondering what translators did to adapt this scene for French-speaking audience. I changed the language to French on Netflix and I watched the same scene in French with the French dub. And this is what they're saying there.
Avant tout, laissez-moi m'excuser de parler avec un accent. Je vais prendre des cours pour m'améliorer, mais il faut me laisser du temps.
And after the short introduction, when Patricia walks off, this is what they say.
Patricia est allergique aux accents.
Oh, by the way, just to be clear, I don't speak French and I don't understand French. I have very little knowledge of the language, probably even less than Emily does. But even I noticed that they were speaking not about the English language, they were speaking about the accent. So I asked my friend who understands French to translate the subtitles. I'm sorry if it's a little inaccurate. My friend was translated it to Russian and I was translated it to English, so there might be some inaccuracy. But I think we got the main point right. Emily, in the French translation, was apologizing not for speaking English, but for speaking French with an English accent. So in the French translation, Emily does speak French. My friend said that Emily speaks fluently, she just has a strong English accent. So for me, this was quite surprising, because the translators, they didn't just decide to change one line so that it would make more sense for the French-speaking audience. Like, you know, when I was watching Friends in English and Russian, I noticed that a lot of times the Russian translators, they changed some lines, especially jokes. If there is a pun in English that cannot be translated technically to Russian, they just would come up with a different joke, something like that. But in this case, translators decided to, or probably just had to, change the character quite a lot. And the storyline, I mean, the fact that Emily doesn't speak French is a quite important point of the story, quite important part of the character. But anyway, they were able to change that part of the character, and they did it quite well. It's an interesting creative approach to translation. We don't see it a lot. By the way, just to be clear, in this video I'm not criticizing the translation. Quite the opposite. I find it very interesting, linguistically speaking. For me, as a person who likes languages, this is very interesting. This is why I decided to make this video and share it with you. So my friend and I, we decided to find more scenes where Emily has problems with French. And it turned out that they changed not just one scene, they edited, they changed many scenes so that they would make more sense for French speakers. For example, in this scene, Emily said that she would probably never learn the language.
I'll never learn the language or understand anything here.
And this is what she is saying in French.
J'ai trop de mal à comprendre les gens et leur façon de vivre.
In another scene, Emily speaks with a Serbian model, and the model says, "I'm sorry, I don't speak French." And Emily says, "Oh, me either."
Bonjour, je suis Emily from Savoir.
I don't speak French.
Me either.
And this is what they're saying in French.
Bonjour, je suis Emily, je travaille pour Savoir.
Je ne sais pas ce que c'est.
C'est
I think that the only scene they were not able to adapt for French speakers was the French classroom scene, where Emily was taking quite basic lessons.
J'aime le café. J'aime le café. J'aime le thé.
The lessons seem to be very basic for Emily's French, but of course it's understandable. They couldn't just refilm the whole scene. Definitely it was not an option. And here's another interesting fact about the Netflix French translation of Emily in Paris. The French subtitles on Netflix and the French dub are different. I mean, if you are watching the dubbed version, you will be hearing this adapted for French speakers thing with Emily speaking French fluently but with a heavy English accent. But if you are watching it in English and you are just reading the French subtitles, the subtitles would be just as they are in the English version because, well, they are speaking English. There is no point in adapting anything. Personally, I find that approach to translation quite interesting and creative, but if you speak French and if you have happened to watch that show in French, please let me know what you think about it. What do you think about that approach to translation? Do you think it was okay to change the character and the story a little, or they should have done it differently? Anyway, I hope you liked this video. I hope you found this video interesting. Please hit the like button if you did, and please don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you want to see more of my videos. And see you next time. Bye!